Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Another entry here based on some of your past suggestions. This one as well, I think was over 2 years or so ago, and it has to do with a cryptid that, I guess I'll mention this up front, is most likely 100% fake. Not like some of, like, let's say the other cryptids that are hard to find and people believe that they're fake. No, in this case, it seems like it's more of a tall tale of sorts. It's a legend, a local legend that a lot of the locals there, I guess, make up to try to ensure that they can put one by, let's say, on the local tourists. But in this case, it has to do with a variation of a very, very cute little animal. But in this case, for it being a cryptid, it's the complete opposite of it. So it is a ferocious, it is a carnivorous, it is a predatory creature. And you would never believe, according to local legend, it has to do with a relative of your average koala. And what I'm talking about is the cryptid known as, this is the term at least applied to it, as a drop bear, which you're looking at a picture of here. Again, for all intents and purposes, it is your average koala, maybe a little bit larger than your average koala there in Australia. But the big, huge difference is that this is one mean SOB. I mean, this is one creature that will actively try to attack anything that comes across it, not just in this case for food, but also to ensure that it's just mean, like it is actively trying to seek prey and then brutally drop down underneath it. And the ways to get rid of them, again, I think this falls under the 100% fake status, because there are some interesting ways to ensure that you're protected from these drop bears while you're there in Australia. But the ways to do so, it just seems like it's all just making fun of that local legend and trying to make sure that when you're doing these quote-unquote protecting things, that you're simply making a fool of yourself at the same time. So what is this drop bear? Well, if you believe the legend tied to it, it is a complete opposite from your average peaceful koala. Koalas, of course, are one of the most well-known animals there in Australia. They are herbivores. They just completely live, let's say, off of trees or any other type of plant life. This, though, this drop bear is different. It is carnivorous. It eats animals. It eats other koalas. It even eats and attacks, I believe, humans, in other words, although it seems to not be its preferred prey. But considering the fact that humans do coexist there with koalas sometimes out there in the wild, then this thing becomes like humans become a target for it. And the reason why it's called a drop bear is because of its main modus of attack. It looks like your average koala. So whenever you're in Australia and let's say you're walking by and you happen to see one in the distance, you're not going to pay too much attention, because in most circumstances, excluding this local legend, you're not going to have anything to worry about koalas. They're not going to really attack you. But in this case, it uses that to its advantage, because it counts on the fact that you're not going to think much of it, and then it'll slowly but surely start stalking you until it's practically overhead. You won't notice it, but there it is overhead in a tree somewhere. And then it's called a drop bear because it'll essentially drop down right onto your head and then start brutally attacking it left and right. It'll use its very strong teeth. It'll use its brutal claws. It'll basically start ripping your head apart, and then that way it'll have something to feast on very, very easily. So that is in essence the drop bear itself. It's your average koala bear, maybe a tiny bit larger, but that's its main modus of operandi. It'll attack you from the trees using again your sense that you're not going to think much of your average koala bear. Now, as far as the ways to protect yourself, again, this is pretty much telling you right up front that these are going to be ways that the locals there try to make fun of tourists into believing this thing. But this is how you can protect yourself from these attacking bears, from these drop bears. One is putting forks in your hair, presumably standing upright. So again, if you're not looking like a fool walking around with forks in your hair standing upright, then I don't know what will. And then another one is taking toothpaste, your average container of toothpaste, and then layering it behind your ears. Again, another way for you to look like an outright fool, or spreading it on your armpits, or spreading it around your neck. So clearly people are going to look at you strangely if you're believing these local legends and you have this toothpaste everywhere. And when you mention the reason for it, that it's about drop bears, they're probably going to understand that you have been fooled. And then another way to do so, probably the worst way, to ensure that you fell victim for this joke, is urinating on yourself. So if you're in the habit of, I guess, peeing all over yourself, then you're in luck, because when you're there in Australia, you will have yourself protected from these drop bears. And then another way to do so doesn't involve necessarily physically making yourself look like a fool, but instead it's being able to quote unquote speak in an Australian accent in English. So if you do that somehow, some way, these drop bears will do something, like they'll either be repulsed or they'll sense something, who knows, but it'll prevent them from attacking you, and then that's it. If there's one recourse involving these attacks, it's the fact that they only happen at night. So as long as you're traveling Australia by day and you truly believe in these drop bears, then you're going to have good success when it comes to traveling by day as opposed to doing so by night. So clearly though, with all the information I just mentioned, doesn't it seem like it's just pretty much done to ensure that they're putting one on, making a good joke to all the local visitors, trying to amuse themselves, I guess, for this? Still though, it's a way to ensure that, I guess, young children don't wander far out from camp, or another way to ensure that young children are told, hey, if you don't do things correctly, then you're going to have a drop bear attack you sometime soon. Just another one of those local lures to ensure that people have some way to keep, I guess, young children correctly. By the way, there is one other kooky and crazy way to do so when it comes to protecting yourself from the koala. This one you're gonna make a mess of yourself, just like the one on when you're urinating. But this one will involve a counterattack of sorts from the drop bear. Basically, you just lay on a tree, and before you do so, let's say for whatever reason you're laying on a tree because you're about to go to sleep or you're about to rest. Why you're not resting, let's say at your home or at a camp, I don't have no idea. But if you're doing so right at that tree and you want to make sure that you don't have a drop bear in front of you ready to attack or attack sometime later on, then all you do is spit upwards. And when you do so, the drop bear is supposed to react, like it's supposed to spit back. It's supposed to do so almost reflexively. Why it does so, I have no idea. But when that happens and you essentially get spit back, then that tells you that yes, there's a drop bear there and it's best to move. It doesn't attack you apparently when that occurs, but at least it gives a forewarning of it. So I know, crazy stuff, right, when it comes to this cryptid, to this drop bear. It'd be interesting to hear if anyone truly has seen any kind of carnivorous attacks from your average koala. There probably are out there, if not for the fact that these things are fiercely protective of their young. And I would imagine that if something is attacking them, then they will take on anything, and then also it may seem like they're eating it at the same time. But if somebody knows any more information there in Australia about the local lore of the drop bear, that would be really, really great to hear. If anyone has any more examples, any more recent ones, specifically of, let's say, attacks of some sort, that would be awesome to hear. And also, please, if anyone happens to be there in Australia, has lived there, and knows that this is all just pretty much 100% some kind of prank or some kind of joke on anybody visiting, if you can confirm that, that would be really awesome to hear too. So, well, alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.